Hey guys, Steve Moran here, and I am talking to two of my favorite people in the whole world in the senior living industry. One of the things I love about you guys is that I just love positive people. And you guys are just, your brains are running all the time, and you're saying, how do we make the world a better place, particularly as it relates to the world of residents and getting people moved into senior living. So Philip Vincent and Ben Rao with Mom's House. Let's do 30 seconds on what Mom's House is. Actually, but I want to set the stage first. So we've got this freight train coming down at us, right?
So we're changing the world in a couple of ways. Some for senior living, some for the families and its humanitarian efforts. It's when mom gets the news she's got to move into senior living, and daughter Judy and the other adult children are like, what are we going to do? We don't want to make the wrong decision. They find out how much it costs. Mom has a house. It's got a lot of equity in it, and she may not have a lot of cash. What we do is we actually buy the house in any condition, anywhere in the United States, can pay cash and can buy and close in just a few weeks. Now, what that does is it gets mom moved into senior living months earlier, and that's going to get even worse with what we're going to talk about today. So now mom is moved in months earlier, medication management, nutrition, socialization, reduced falls, all those things have proof to show that mom is going to live longer and a happier and a better life. So from that part for the family, it's how do we get mom moved in safely to somewhere? Yep. Selfishly, from a care community's perspective, when we talk about occupancy or census, that's getting somebody moved in 2 or 3 months earlier, might be adding on months at the end of mom's stay because we get her in earlier and keep her healthier. That could add another 20 to 30% more profitability or revenue with the same resident that you have moving in. And that's what we do, Steve. We actually accelerate that move-in process, and we help the family with the house and all the stuff that they want to leave behind that we know is very, very emotional and stressful.
Yep. Okay, so big deal. I mean, here's the thing. I can sell my house in 30 days anyway. That's the way the market's been.
Yeah.
That's actually really not probably true.
Well, yeah, if you would have said 90 days, I would have agreed, right?
That's from the point where you have it all cleared out, it's all ready to go, and you put a sign in the yard. Yep. But what are you going to do with all the stuff in the basement, Steve, that's been there for 30 years of memory? What about the sewer pipe that's been broken and mom hasn't been down in the basement for weeks because she can't go to the basement and it's filled with stuff? The roof hasn't been replaced since 1980. All these things all go into all the challenges that a traditional real estate agent would tell a family: clean out the house, get it ready, do these 4 or 5 things, which means they got to find money, maybe go borrow money, put it into the house, and all of this adds on time. We're trying to get mom into safety as quickly as possible and eliminate all of these stressors for all the adult children, because they don't realize they're going to end up at the exact same place going the traditional route that they could do it in a few weeks.
If they try to rehab it themselves, right? And that's the thing, Steve.
If they try to do it in
perfect shape, the retail route's always there, but a lot of these houses, even if they're clean, they're usually dated and they're almost always full of stuff. And so that we're doing the thing that the family is not either prepared to do or doesn't want to do. There's data out there that shows for about every dollar that they spend on the rehab, they get about 60 cents back on their investment. So they spend 30 grand, they'd get $18,000 back. That's not a good investment in a time when they need money for mom. And it's, if you knew if you had only 28 months left with your mother, would you spend any time rehabbing the house especially with what Ben said? If you're going to net around the same amount, but you can do it in 3 weeks with no hassle, most people are choosing that other solution.
Perfect. So let's talk about the real estate market. It's like we've seen mortgage rates go up. How much? 2%? 1.5%?
They fluctuate every day. You used to be able to get a 30-year in the twos, maybe even the low twos, definitely in the high twos, pretty standard. And then they got all the way up into the mid sixes. And if you look at a affordability calculator, that is a gigantic difference. The amount of house you can buy. So people were selling their houses for more, but then they turned around and tried to buy something. With the interest rates going up, it reduced what they could purchase by the hundreds of thousands of dollars when the money got more expensive. Now they've settled back down in the 4s and 5s, but what's funny about humans is that we keep thinking about those 2s again, and we're like, it's pulled some people off the sidelines, or that were on the sidelines are going to stay there now because they keep waiting for the interest rates to fall. And I think everyone, the three of us are old enough to remember, even in the mid 2000s, I was happy to get a 6.5% interest rate loan. And my parents in the 80s were happy to get a 14% interest rate loan. And if you look at the last 60 years, there's still some of the lowest interest rates ever, but that's not how the market's looking at it. And we think that with the Fed and the inflation, they're trying to squash that it could go up another point, 2 points. If we get into the eights, the real estate market's going to stop as we know it. And if you've been in senior living for less than 12 years, you've only ever known a hot real estate market, especially the last 24 months. But over the past 60 days, that has changed. And there's this joke going around inside the real estate world right now is that for any real estate agent, which by the way, we're not agents, but in the real estate world, they said a price reduction is something you have to do when you have to lower the price. That's the meme that's going around because all these new agents they've only ever known above asking, above no inspections, 50,000 over cash. Like that stopped. And so, Steve, I've been in real estate for 24 years. So back in 08, 09, 2010, 2011, families used to beg me to buy their house. The reason why was back then, the houses that were selling were the ones that were rehabbed to the nines. They were in great shape. The ones that were sitting on the market were the dated homes. And what we're talking about today is the seniors' houses. And these are the ones, while they're usually taken care of, they're usually very dated or just not up to the 2023 standard. And that's what we're experts at nationwide. We buy houses. We're looking for houses we can buy and add value to. That's what we want to purchase.
The scary part, Steve, is that with this change, and I just jumped over to the screen and was looking at what prime was in March and what it is kind of at the end of July. And that was 3.5% versus 5.5%. Affordability for houses for people to buy them is changing. Yep. And the market is slowing down, and we're already seeing it. We've been seeing it for the last 60 to 90 days, which is it's like no big deal. Let's not think about it. It should be one of the scariest things for senior living industry operators, because if the people can't sell their houses quickly, they can't get people moved in.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah, and you're talking about potential tragedy, right? So you wait 6 months to sell your house, or you spend 3 months rehabbing and then 6 months selling, and all of a sudden you have just crushed that little bit of what could have been amazing quality of life for these prospects. So
we're actually working with a couple of gerontologists now, and we're developing a white paper that actually shows and pulls together the data that shows if we can get somebody transitioned into senior living quickly, it really does increase that quality of life, their length of life, all those things, which is that humanitarian part of why we built Mom's House. It's like, how do we help mom get moved into care? Because we know when they get in there, they always say, I should have done this 6 months ago. But getting over that emotional resistance and all the financial challenges and all that connection to the house and the stuff. And so those are the big challenges for these families.
So I got a question. I sort of, I'm old enough that I could live in a senior living community now. I actually saw a news story about an older guy who was assaulted. And when I read the age, I was shocked. It was 67, which is how old I am. And I don't really think of myself. And it described him as an elderly person. And I don't think of myself as being elderly. So it was
you don't have any hair. I mean,
I don't think of you as elderly either, Steve, just for the record.
Yeah, I don't think most people would call me elderly. But anyway, it made me sort of smile. But what I'm wondering about is I got lots of junk. And I don't know that I really want you coming and pawing through my junk. Can you talk to me about that?
Be happy to. First thing I would do is I wouldn't call your stuff junk, even if it is. I would call it stuff or something, your possessions. I don't like the J word too much. It's kind of unkind, even though that's probably what it is, or a lot of times. I would say, Steve, that the heirlooms leave the house in the first 15, 20 minutes. Those get dispersed to the family very quickly. What's left over is stuff. And so I don't want to paw through your stuff either. And guess who really doesn't want to paw through your stuff? Because you're nowhere near needing to move into senior living today. But when your adult children or your family members help you move into senior living and you're only taking a few items with you, they don't care about your stuff nearly as much as you do. And so I always try to, one of our core values at Mom's House is to empower the family to do what's right for them. And I'll give you a good example is like a pool table. If you gave me a free pool table, that pool table might cost me $1,000 to have it moved and refelted. And the point is the stuff is valuable to you. And Steve, if you have a salt and pepper collection, shaker collection, I'll help you find a salt and pepper shaker buyer. I'm not in the stuff business, but we empower the families to, I'm going to meet you at your level. If you need to do a clean out, an auction, an estate sale, we work with those people nationwide to help you unlock any cash out of that stuff. And we do that at no charge, only because that's what has to happen before we can rehab the house.
Oh, that's really cool. So if I had a house and my big barrier was that I needed to do a yard sale or an estate sale, and it was just killing me to do that, you'd actually walk in and help us get through that.
I'd do you one better. If the word garage sale gets thrown around, I'd rather write you a check for $500 and none of us do the garage sale. But that's a whole other conversation, because and let me give you the stat, Steve. In St. Louis, the average estate sale, not garage sale, but estate sale generates between $3,000 and $5,000 in revenue. You want to guess what it costs to put that sale on, Steve?
No idea. $500.
And no, it's between $3,000 and $5,000 to put the sale on. By the time the things are categorized, labeled, the workers are there, the clean out, all those things. And so you spend $3,000 to $5,000 to make $3,000 to $5,000. So you don't find out that your stuff is maybe, it takes 90 days to do all that, and you get to zero at the end. How disheartening is that for everyone involved? That's in St. Louis. That it's one of those things you don't realize till after the fact. And so, and I don't even think it's worth zero at that point. I think it's worth less than zero because of the time it took the family. They're not moving their parents in until they get all this stuff figured out. The stuff in the house is what's slowing that down. People always think it's the neighboring community with the new shiniest chandelier that looks like a ski lodge. They think that's why they're not moving into their community. It's not that. It's what Ben said, the emotional baggage of leaving the forever home and their stuff, most of their stuff. That's the hard part. And that's what we help to empower all the daughter Judys, all the seniors nationwide, to give them another option, to meet them at their level. And so, it's funny, Steve, some people love their stuff and some people say, they call it the J word and say, get rid of all that junk, I don't care. But we meet them at their level depending on who they are as a person.
Yeah, well, as you guys know, my dad passed away about 6 months ago, and so his wife is still living in the house, but she's already sort of starting to work through this stuff, and she's got a lot of attachment to most of this stuff as well. But as I've just watched her work through it, I thought, oh man, one of these days I'm going to have to still deal with all that stuff. And the idea of being able to hand it over to you, or maybe in a very different way of looking at it, is I tend to keep cars a long time. And I am not I'm more of a hoarder, collect. I'm not the traditional, pathological hoarder, but I tend to have lots of stuff. I'd be embarrassed for you to see my desk right now. It's just got stuff everywhere, which is why it's outside the camera view. But when I've sold cars, right, it's like the worst part of buying a new car is that I've got to spend an hour mucking out stuff that might have value that probably really has no value at all out of my old car. And the idea that I could just hand it to you guys and be, here's the keys, you deal with all that, the gum wrappers and the change in the bottom of is actually a pretty good, that feels good.
Yep. And do that now times your full, 2,000 square foot house plus your lower level, people have,
and the garage,
cubic. I've had some houses that we had to get 40-yard dumpsters. That's basically 40 semi-truckloads, guys, out of one house, right? I mean, and here's the thing about people. Everyone's different. Sometimes they collect newspapers and sometimes they collect things that are very valuable, right? And I love it all because I try to, my job is ever changing, right? It's still humans and their stuff, but it's kind of fun to, I guess I have a little American Pickers in me, the American Pickers show. I kind of get a kick out of seeing people's stuff because I learn a lot about them from their tchotchkes.
But it is amazing, Steve, to see when the families we work with realize that we can help, whereas mom's downsizing and the stuff that they want is there. It's like, what are we going to do with the rest of it? We say, you can just leave it behind. We'll take care of it. Yep. And they just go, yes. Yeah, you can just feel it right over the phone or when you're talking to them or anything else. And we didn't originally plan to build this company that way. It came out of necessity very, very quickly in the beginning that we could provide a whole nother value to these families and help that other hurdle.
Cool. So let's actually get down a little bit to the nuts and bolts on this. How do people work with you? What's that look like? If I'm a senior living operator, or I'm just an individual salesperson, what's that look like?
So we've spent a lot of time out there investing to create meaningful relations and integrations with the CRM companies and technology companies that are in senior living. So whether that's a Sherpa or a Welcome Home or Site Staff or Conversion Logics or any of these companies that have tools that are helping senior living sales and marketing already, we actually have integrations and we're betting in that, and that's making it easy so we can systematize that referral. So as when you're working with a family, that we can help the prompt and make sure the sales and marketing people, they're asking those questions. That's a really important question to ask. Hey, I understand you may have a house. 75% of these people moving in have a house, right? So it's, do you have a house? Yes. Would you like to get introduced to a resource that's no obligation to you, Mom's House, that can help you come out and have a transition specialist meet with your family and give you an option that if you don't like it, you don't have to take it, but it's another option for the family. And we're trying to give families options, right? If they decide they want to go traditional, they decide they want to sell it to a family member, decide they're going to keep it as a rental, cool, that's all fine. But we want to give them options to try to advance those stages of readiness for that senior to get them moving forward, to get them into care. And that's just one of the biggest hurdles.
Yeah.
So check a box, set a filter, set a trigger. These are all things that we've already all been working on. And so making it super simple for a brand that might have 30 or 40 locations or 10 or 100 to be able to roll this out in the marketing. And we do that training and all those things and help it make it easy to make it a turnkey solution for senior living operators.
Great. And if I am sitting here watching this and thinking, oh yeah, I got somebody who this could really work for, pick up the phone and call that number or go to the website, right?
Sure.
Then go to the website. They can email ben@momshouse.com. If you're a senior living operator, we work with a lot of the C-level suite and the VPs of sales and marketing to help them to implement this across their entire brand.
Stevie, you had said something earlier about trading the car in. So I want to go back to that car analogy because I really like that, trading the car in. When we talk about stereotypes of buying a new car, a lot of people think that they have to trade their car in, or that's usually what they do for convenience, to go get a new car, right? Well, in the senior living world, they're moving into a new type of housing, yet they usually, for the past 30 years, have been pushing their customers away, saying things like, go talk to a real estate agent and go figure that out. And when you figure that out, come back and see us. They literally do the gesture to push their customers away. And so when we look at Mom's House, what we're doing is we're the people taking the used cars, because that's what we're doing. We're buying the used cars, right? And hold on, why did the new car dealerships have to start taking the trade-ins? It's because they wanted to speed up the process. I can't buy your new car, Mr. Dealership, until I do something with my old car. Let's just replace the words. I can't move into your community until I know what I'm going to do with my house and my stuff. And during that discovery process, this is happening every single day. Every executive director talks, they laugh. They're like, yeah, we deal with this every day. And instead of this industry, instead of pushing it away, especially in a time when the market's getting ready to change, there's a solution for it. This industry doesn't have to play defense on their heels. They can get in front of this and give the family another option.
Yeah, we've built and designed this to be able to run alongside of senior living industry sales and marketing teams. We're with them there. There's no conflict. We're there. We're a resource. We're there to help them be more successful, get families moved in, increase conversions. And Steve, we haven't even talked about what happens with the senior living industry, that they get 30 leads a month. At the end of the year, now they have 400 and they've only moved in 40 people. And so they have another 360 people that they haven't been doing anything effective with. We're an amazing reactivation tool to be able to have a meaningful conversation besides how's the weather, how's it going, any decision on mom versus we understand, the house might be a hurdle. We've got a resource we'd love to introduce you to.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I really, I think it that what you're talking about, Ben, just really excites me, right? Imagine taking your old lead base that you've sort of given up on and just shooting out this email and say, still want senior living? Can't figure out how to unlock from your cache? Here's an easy way to do that. We'll
do you one better than that, Steve. If they have that list to us, and as long as those people have opted into them, they can use a part of our company that think of as more of our marketing services, and that we will actually help to call those families and help to do that on their behalf to see if we can get them advanced.
Yep.
Okay, guys,
guess how
listen to this.
Guess how much we charge for that? Guess how much we charge for that?
You got to do this. You got like another your own ancillary marketing department for free. You got to do this. This is crazy cool.
Yes,
I love that.
We try to build offers that it's like, to say it bluntly, they would feel silly for not using this. Why would you not do this? Right? That's what we're trying to make this so obvious that we fix one of the biggest problems in senior living, which is occupancy. And we help with the staffing because we're kind of doing a lot of the things that the sales staff wish they had time for. A wise man once told me, his name was Steve Moran. I don't know if you know him, but he told me if there's 98 problems in senior living, he said the two biggest are occupancy and staffing. And we definitely help with occupancy, and we help the staff because we run alongside the sales staff. Things like the home visit and moving those, what Ben said, the stages of readiness along. We do that alongside augmenting what's already happening there. And so we are a free service to the community. It's like it's a no-brainer.
And to the family.
Ultimately, the families are the ones that benefit, the residents benefit, and of course the senior living communities. Well, listen, guys, this has been terrific. Thank you very much. I love the passion.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Steve.